Awesome. So Tasha, I just want to talk to you a bit about, let's go through what you do. You work with women entrepreneurials managing the stress that comes with entrepreneurship and you know, how it affects their personal life and intimate life. Tell me about that. That strikes a chord with me. I love that.
Yeah. So one of the things I discovered about entrepreneurship way late in the journey is that there's a huge impact on your personal life that doesn't get addressed when people are talking about work-life balance in the general big scheme of things. And, you know, a 9-to-5 job produces a lot of predictability. You can schedule things that are pretty consistent Monday through Friday for the mornings, pretty consistently Monday through Friday for the evenings. But for a lot of people who are either starting their business or they have a business that's booming and scaling or going in another direction, it doesn't follow that pattern most often. There are lots of ebbs and flows, different seasons, different demands on time and energy and attention. And that has a ripple effect, because if you're paying attention to your business, you're not paying attention to your health or your partnership or your parenting or, you know, your creativity, your spirituality, all these pieces. And after coaching women for about 14 years, I business strategy, but 50% of the conversation, if not more, ended up being about how to have these conversations with their partner, what support looks like, how do you ask for help when you don't feel like you're allowed to or you shouldn't have to. Also, you know, how to navigate when you both have a business, you both have two businesses in the house, and you both need that time on your businesses, and you also need to co-parent, you need to also cohabitate. And so this extra layer of off the beaten path kind of lifestyle choices were not being addressed, and it created ripples in their business, but it also created a disconnect with the relationship, because I think as women especially, we're expected to do a lot of DIY, which is to figure it out, because that's how we've done a lot of the things that we are able to do in our lives. And it can be, you know, exhausting to try to figure that out for yourself without any other resources. And it can feel kind of lonely. And so I kind of switched gears, because there's plenty of business strategists out there who are rocking, you know, their expertise. And I focus on helping women a system and a structure for their personal life that's customized to what their family needs, what their partnership needs, what their business needs, to make sure that they're not all business and no play, so that they can have the best of both worlds.
Like, how do you almost determine what they need?
Yeah, usually it's overwhelm and it's close to burnout, and they've tried, you know, they've purchased 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 programs thinking that was the problem. I just need another course. I just need another workshop. I just need to learn more. And it's when they've gotten to that point, they're like, nothing is working. I can't make this work. And they start to feel that disconnect, like I'm losing control. I don't feel like I'm connected with my husband anymore, or my partner. I don't feel like my kids are as connected. Like they're just starting to lose their connection kind of across the board. And fortunately, somehow I swoop in and cross their path, and we start working together. And I know it's a right fit, because I'll ask a couple key questions about, what do you want? And they have kind of a picture of some things they want, but not the clear full image, which is where a lot of the challenges are coming from. Because without being clear, then you're making misaligned decisions in all the areas of your life, which makes it difficult to say yes to the things that do fill you up. And so, yes, I work with women who are close to burnout, who are already, unfortunately, because we don't know that we need those things until we're already far down that path.
Yeah, and I'm sure that when they're working with you, it's not just even their stress of business that you're improving, but actually their quality of their marriage and family life. Like it's the whole package, right?
Yes. And I was a sex and intimacy coach for 12 years while I was doing the coaching as well. And very rarely is there just one thing that changes the relationship. There's usually one thing that ripples into the different areas. And so when you are looking at, you know, a woman and her identity and her personal purpose and her passion, and she doesn't have clarity on those things because they've gotten kind of covered up by the expectations and the habits and just the routine and how fast paced life can get when you have kids and a business and a partner and all these other expectations and responsibilities. It makes it challenging to make the decision to connect with a partner, because you can't connect if you don't know who you are.
Mm.
And if you've lost, parts of who you are, but don't know that because you keep thinking that you just need to buy another course to fix that, right? Like you just need to learn more business strategies, and then I can get to my marriage, and then I can get to my parenting, and then I can get to my health. You're always putting yourself on the back burner because you're trying to fix a problem out there that's actually can be really helped internally. So finding that purpose and that internal identity, then you can get clear about what it is you want to connect about. What do you have to offer your partner? What do you have to give as a gift to the person that you're spending your life with? And then what do you need back? Because once you know who you are and what your strengths are, you also get really clear on what you're not so strong at, and you can ask for that. So that give and receive in a relationship and a partnership that has to be there can actually start to form, because we as women are guiding that relationship a lot of the time in that respect. And you can only do that when you know what you want. And a lot of women don't give themselves the gift of getting clear about what that is.
So you were a sex and intimacy coach, and that must have been very interesting. I have a lot of clients actually that I now start, gearing them towards, specialties like that.
Yeah.
So a woman comes to you, she's overwhelmed, she's stressed. You said, I think you already answered this about purpose, but, and she's telling you, like, I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, and, there's no more intimacy in my marriage. I feel like I'm losing it. Where do I start?
Yeah. So there's a lot of questions that would go into that one-on-one conversation. And I feel so honored to have been able to create that space for so many women over the years, because it is such a hard topic to bring up, especially if you have a group of friends, or you grew up, like you and I have talked about, grew up in a community where there were definitely yes and no topics to talk about. And for so many of my clients over the years, talking about intimacy was a lot of things. None of them, very rarely was it a positive way to connect. It was a thing that you need to do, you have to do, or it was a thing that you had to do for your partner, or it was something that you only did because you had children, or all these rules about what it could and couldn't be. So again, these women didn't have the opportunity to identify, what do I actually want? Because they're so scared to want anything because it's going to be judged, or it's the wrong thing, or the dirty thing, or all of these. And so most of the time we just start talking about the pressure that you're feeling because you what you want underneath of that, unless you start pulling back some of these layers. And so what do you think, what is it that you're feeling pulled to right now, or that you're feeling like you can't give your attention to your intimacy and your sensuality and those things because something else is demanding your attention? I think especially right now, there are so many things that are pulling at our attention and our energy that the last thing any of us need is to add something into our schedule or our to-do list. And so the first line of defense is really just pulling back. What do you not need? What can we declutter from your mind and your activities so we can create a space to start exploring that area? What are you saying yes to that you're only saying yes to because someone else is going to be happy about it, versus it actually is aligned with your purpose and where you want to go? Getting rid of some of those things, renegotiating household responsibilities with kids and partners so that you are not carrying the weight of that. Women are oftentimes expected to be, like you said, you supply the energy for the home. You are the one that brings the light into the family, but you also do the dishes and the laundry and the housekeeping and the grocery shopping and all these things. Plus you're supposed to be this sex kitten, right? Mm-hmm. And so how are you going to do all of those things and sleep at night? And so it's really about removing the extra pieces to be able to then identify what is it that lights you up? What do you like about your sensuality? Getting in touch with your senses rather than worrying about a body image. And starting those conversations that can kind of be challenging in a relationship, especially if it's been a while, with getting comfortable with there being a sense of humor in the conversation as well. Those are usually my first few steps.
Mm-hmm. And do you approach the steps consistently? Like if a couple or a woman comes to you and her husband are both entrepreneurs, is there a new path? Is there a different approach? Or?
Oh yeah, because my experience with most entrepreneurs is there is no off time. You're an entrepreneur 24 hours a day, because that's how our brains work. You have ideas, there's new inspiration, there's always innovation kind of flowing through our bodies. So usually the first thing that we need to do is talk about when you're off the clock, when you're disconnected from the rest of the world, so that you can be fully connected to your partner. And that is usually the number one shift that really gives the relationship a platform to do anything with, because it's one or the other is on their phone doing the things they need to do for the business at any given time. So, you know, one partner's on their phone looking at the emails and the messages and those kinds of things. The other partner isn't, but they see that this partner is, so they're like, well, I'll just pick up mine and get my stuff done too. And then this person puts it down there. So they end up feeding back and forth with each other. They both want to connect, but they also want the business to be successful so they can provide for their family. They can have the impact they're meant to have. And so there's multiple layers that play with it. So the first direction or assignment is to get clear on when their energies can be in the same space at the same time, disconnected from the rest of the world. It doesn't have to be a 4-hour date night. It can just be in your room or on the front porch. Well, not in the wintertime, but you can walk in your full layers, just with each other without having any device attached to you in any way, so that you can really focus wholeheartedly on your partner and have that conversation.
No, yeah, that's fantastic. I think I told you this already before. I need to have you on here monthly, because that's one of those things that, now I don't know if I was in a space in my own journey that I would have listened to the advice, but I was there, like, you know, 2 entrepreneurials in the house. When it's, you know, enrollment time or go time, we don't see each other. 3 kids, 15 sports teams 1 year. It's just 2 ships, you know, passing in the wind kind of thing, whatever the saying is, passing at night. And we, when we started getting back on track, that exactly what you're saying is what we had to do. We had to establish some ground rules, and it was, you know, when it's go time, we still had to make time in the morning. I had to get up at his time, which is 5:30, just so we could have a coffee and sit beside each other, or he'd have to stay up a little bit for me at night or whatever it is. But we had to like get those half hours in just for connection, because, you know, it's always go time when you're not entrepreneur. There's always go time.
There's always a way to do more. There is always going to be.
Yeah. And one of the main sentences he'd always say is, well, if we're okay, everything's okay. And I would say, but we're not okay. Like, I just want to disagree, but we're not okay. I don't see you. How can we be okay? We never touch, we never talk, we never, you know, and it was only when we got to the other side, he told me, you know, whenever you would say to me, we never talk anymore, it would bother me, because I would think, what do you mean? We talk all the time. Why is she, you know, why is she being so needy? What does she mean by that? And, you know, when we started communicating, he realized, oh, this is what she means by talk, like listening, communicating.
And engaging, not just passing essentially verbal Post-it notes. Like, that's what happens, right? Like, you got this kid, I got this kid, somebody else will grab this kid, and then we'll move on.
Yeah. Any, I think I asked maybe if you had like 2 or 3 takeaways for anybody kind of going through that motion of kind of, and I think you've already said a couple, but just to summarize, maybe a couple.
Yeah, I think if you are in a situation where, and some people with a career have this as well, so it doesn't necessarily have to be entrepreneurship, but if you're looking around at the last 5 or 6 days of your partnership, and you cannot find a time where you're looking at each other and you're having one of those couples only conversations with your eyes, then there's an opportunity for you to create that space for yourself in the next 7 days by agreeing on just start with a small pocket of time, because this can be a challenge for people. There's a huge addiction to devices right now, and so it can be really challenging to really pull that apart. But just even a 15-minute time period every day where you're holding hands, you're making eye contact, and you're talking about non-work, non-kid stuff. And that can be a challenge. That in of itself can be a challenge. So what I suggest that you do is Google conversations for first dates and go back to the foundation. Go back to the basics, because those answers that were happening on your first date are not the same as they are now. So have some of those conversations, And then you lean on your devices throughout the week to communicate in a fun way. One of the things that my husband and I did when we started noticing that this was starting to take our toll on our marriage 5 or 6 years ago, we got a separate app that was just for us, just for our conversation, that had nothing to do with kids or house or work. Like it had a no responsibilities tag on it. And there's tons out there. There's one called Avocado. There's one called Couples. But it was the app that when we communicated in that, we knew it was going to be flirty. It was going to be fun. It was going to be about the future. And it was about us growing together and our relationship having nothing to do with the outside world. And that had a huge factor in us staying connected during launches, during, blast offs, during grand openings or reopenings and new branches and all of these different things that happen with entrepreneurship. But also busy seasons when, kids' schedules get crazy. I know you shared that you have a lot of sports things happening in your house when there's seasons overlapping and you really are high-fiving past each other. That can give you an opportunity to be sitting there at a practice and say, hey, just so you know, I thought about this vacation that we took 2 years ago in that moment where we were doing this, and I thought it was so funny. I just thought I'd tell you that I was thinking about you and it made me laugh and I love you. Those kinds of things keeps the thread going so that when you get to the moments where you can actually spend that time, that can really make it easier to sink back into your rhythm together.
I love that. And I love what you just said about actually using the phone for good almost, because a lot of women that I work with actually have a resentment towards the phone, right? He's always on his phone. He's always on his phone. He's never looking up. But if you can actually now create almost like a bridge between the two, that's a great little tactic there. I like that one.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's fun because then you also, how you get mail, like when you get mail, it's usually bills and it's, ads and those kinds of things. But when you get like a card, you're like, oh, this is so fun. It's the same thing with your phone. Like you open your phone, there's the little notification that's just for that app. You're like, oh, I wonder what he sent me. I wonder what, it gets you silly and giddy again, which is what you need in your relationship. You've been together for a while, 15, 20 years. Mm-hmm. You need some giddiness back in there. And those kinds of things can add that in there.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that. I'm going to go download an app. That's exciting. So I'm going to close things up here, but I want to stay on because I have other questions, but we definitely hope to see you more often here. And I just want to say thank you, Tasha, for your time. And I will link your information that if anybody wants more, that is connected with you and would like some more information, would like to go and follow you, that they will be able to.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Okay. We'll talk to you soon.